Welcome back to r/neighbors from hell, where people share stories about their crazy neighbors. And if you are new to my channel, please don't forget to subscribe to join our amazing community. And without any further ado, let's dive right into the stories. And the first one is titled, "Blocked my driver's side door, did you?" I would like to start this post by sharing a common assumption we have where I am from. If you drive a Mercedes, Audi or BMW, we will automatically assume you are a complete show-off and not that great of a human being. On to what happened. And by the way guys, where you are from, do people assume the same? Let us know in the comments. Anyway, there is this long stretch of road with free parking next to my block of flats. While we do have parking spaces below our entrance, most people who live here take up 2 or 3 depending on how many cars the household owns. Since the roadside parking is free, no one really starts any arguments and we just park our cars there. It only takes half a minute longer to get to it, no problem. Due to a certain nuisance to our health raging about, we don't really leave the house much. That being said, imagine how annoyed I was today when I set off to my car and find that I cannot enter it due to a shiny new prestige Audi parked so close to it, I could not even squeeze between them, let alone attempt to enter it through the driver's side. Now the parking space is not small, there's more than enough space to park your car properly and enter it with no problem. I always make sure to park mine in the center of the box, but this guy literally put his right tires in the box my car was parked in. A whole quarter of his box on the left side was vacant. This could not just be an accident, he had to have seen how he parked when he left his car. I grumpily climbed in through the passenger side, went about my business, bought every necessity for the next few days and came back. The Audi was still there. By the way guys, I gotta say, it feels weird to say Audi, so from now on I would say Audi, like you would say it in German. So of course I did the exact thing he did to me. I parked on his right, just close enough for him to not be able to open his driver's side door. Have fun repeating what I had to do to be able to use my car. I can see the parking from my window. As soon as I see the Audi is no longer there, I will move my car to make more room for my next parking neighbor. Update: I was delivering food to the elderly part of my family when the car moved. My brother has his desk by the window and checked every once in a while. He said he, at some point, looked up and saw a woman climbing into her car through her passenger's door. I went to move my car into a proper parking position when I got home, and the lady was decent enough not to leave any bumps or scratches. Also, to the people that get offended by the first line in this post, I and everyone here is well aware that not all people who drive nicer cars are douchebags. The majority of people where I live are, and most of the ones that are belong to the younger generation. They will buy it simply for the sake of having this particular brand, even if it is used, old, etc. I don't see this when I visit a neighboring country. It is a problem here. And guys, as you might know, I am currently here in Thailand, and I'm not sure if you are aware, expensive car brands like Mercedes, Audi and so on cost a crap ton of money in Thailand because they have to pay so much import tax or something. So that's why when you go to a BMW dealer in Thailand, you essentially pay double as much as you would pay, for example, in Germany and Europe. So therefore, the people that drive BMW or Mercedes here are either insanely rich or enjoy paying car loans until the rest of their life. In addition, one curiosity, I don't want to make this too long, but what I noticed, a lot of the malls here in bigger cities have very limited parking, and often people just park in the second row, meaning right in front of someone else, and if that person wants to go out, they simply push the car in front of them away. Honestly, I'm not sure if I've ever seen something similar in a Western country. And the next one is titled, "Douchebag Neighbor." So I live out in the country with my parents and 2 brothers, so we usually don't get a lot of trouble. Except for one neighbor who just so happens to live right next to us. He's been a douchebag for years and has done more to try to hurt us than I can even care to count. Every year he has the family reunion on the same day. Last year he did not just let people go through our yard, that is right, not driveway, yard. To get to his yard, he encouraged it. It was so muddy out that day, they tore up our yard. Today, Saturday, August 24th, 2019, just so happens to be his family reunion. He again encouraged people to drive through our yard, this time about 5 minutes before people started leaving. I parked my car in the only opening they could get through that leads from my yard to the road, which just so happens to be the edge of my driveway. They tried to get out of his yard for the past 20 minutes. If they even tried to go through our yard, they would have to go through a very deep ditch and ruin their car or hit my car. My car is within perfect view of the front window, so I've been watching and making sure they don't. I got a bad video of them trying to get out of his yard after a couple cars already left, but it was still really funny. And guys, if you have watched until here, please don't forget to post some star emojis in the comments and also like the video to show your support. Thank you so much in advance. And the next one is titled, "You don't need my help? Fine by me." So, about 2 months ago, my neighbor moved out. Now, we were not hangout level friends, but we were cordial with each other. We had an agreement that if the other was not home when a package came, we would go grab it and just give it to each other when they got home, as my neighborhood is littered with porch pirates. So, a month ago, new neighbor moves in, he has a package arrive, he's not home, I grab the package, figuring I would try and make the same arrangement with him. An hour later or so, he pulls in his driveway and I come out to meet him with his package. I hand him the package and I give him the rundown about package thieves in the area. He loses his mind and tells me, "I don't need your effing help, mind your own business, leave me there alone," and storms off into his house. Okay, cool. Fast forward to yesterday, I am outside doing honey stews, flowers, yard, blah blah, neighbor is not home. Amazon guy comes and drops off a package on dude's doorstep. Cue malicious compliance. Not 5 minutes after the Amazon guy leaves, here comes a porch pirate, grabs the package and just starts casually walking back to the sidewalk. Just as the thief makes the sidewalk, the douche pulls into his driveway. Thief takes off running, he gets out of his car and starts screaming at me. I told him, "Nah dude, I believe you told me you did not need my help and to mind my own business, so that is what I did." The guy gets all pissed and runs into his house. You could hear him breaking furniture. Hilarious. And guys, I'm curious, did you ever have such an agreement with your neighbor? Personally, in my home country, we do have such an agreement, and I would say it is pretty normal to take the package of your neighbor in case he's not home. How is it for you? Let us know in the comments. And also I'm curious, did you ever see any porch pirates? Because that is also something that is not really that common where I am from. And the next one is titled, "Entitled Neighbor Makes Rude Comment About My Service Dog in the Grocery Store." Here I am with my second post about all the rude people my service dog and I have encountered. The first one was an entitled parent story, so it is on that subreddit. A little backstory, I have a psychiatric service dog who alerts me to my anxiety attacks and helps me with my sensory processing disorder, SPD. I will dissociate when I get too stressed or overwhelmed, which can be dangerous if I am really out of it. My dog can ground me, make me sit down and do deep pressure therapy, DPT, to pull me out of an episode faster. I never let anyone pet him because if he misses an alert because he's distracted, I could get hurt. He does not go in public anymore due to personal reasons, but he still does all of his tasks at home. This happened about 1.5 years ago when I was 14. I was at the grocery store with George and my dad one day doing some shopping when we ran into my neighbor. She is your run-of-the-mill snooty persnickety Karen. She has a rescue dog who is territorial, and every time I go to walk George and she's walking on my street, she tells me to "Wait, so Lily and I can get through, she's territorial." I just keep walking. If she cannot control her dog on a public road, it is her fault, I just keep my distance. My neighbor sashays over to where George and I were getting some snacks and taps my shoulder. I jump because I don't like being approached from behind in that manner. She says, "Oh, hi OP, it is so nice to see you." She looked down at George. "Oh, and you brought your little dog with you." First, George is not little, he's 60 pounds. Second, she knows he is my service dog.
Why is that thing here? You should know, pets are not allowed in the grocery store.
George was clearly marked in his bright Kelly green service dog vest with a plethora of "Service dog, do not pet" patches. He's my service dog. I thought you knew that.
Oh, now I see the vest.
His vest is not small.
My bad.
She proceeded to pet him and walk away. More stories about annoying people to come. And guys, I gotta admit, even though you probably know that I am not the biggest fan of dogs, but I am always surprised and baffled at the things dogs can do or can be trained to help people. Absolutely fascinating if you ask me. Don't give me back my deposit? Have 3 agencies rate you. This happened 1 year ago. Setup is LL for landlord. And by the way guys, this story is not really about neighbors, but it is just an outrageously good landlord revenge story. I had rented out a room in a house with the current owner and occupant of the joint. I gave him a deposit to move in and the first month's rent. Everything was good, I did my job, I paid my rental obligation, privacy was respected. After 6 months of living with him, I finally got a better paying job and left. The agreement was that when I left, I would get my deposit back the week after. Week goes by, landlord says,
I will get it next week.
Another month goes by, landlord,
I have not forgotten about you.
Well, now it has been 2 months and he blocked my number. I am mad as hell, I want my money. Now I plotted my revenge. See, my landlord was a drug fanatic. Halfway through my first month rent, he showed me in the basement of the house his 20 pot plants he was growing into mature plants to run a distribution ring. He also had a drug den room where he could use crack to get a fix along with some very funny pills. While I worked hard at my job for not the greatest pay, he took unemployment and disability benefits while doping up back at home. Landlord also had an extensive weapons collection, firearms which were not registered in his state as well as firearms not registered under him. Landlord also had his own drug dealer that would show up to drop off dope among other things. Landlord did this the entire course of me being there. He thought he was safe until he started messing around with my livelihood. So I wrote down everything I could remember and did my research. Behold the powers of search engines and the internet. Bang! Crime Stoppers fine print. Get $1,000 for your tip. Bingo! I fill out every minute detail, timestamps, photos of the growing operation, photo of the house, contacts, his entire life I had information on. Submit everything and given credentials to wait. My deposit was $350, so pocketing an extra $650 is completely worth it. He thought I would not be a snitch, but you backstab me, I will F you over so hard. Parents lived in the neighboring town. I asked them to forward me the town newsletters and I also looked at the county police and news updates. 4 months later, I see it in bold. Drug operation busted, the police got a wiretap warrant on his phone and staked out his property. The seriousness of drugs and weapons mixed, the ATF was also involved with the DEA. And apparently, guys, please correct me if I'm wrong, the ATF is the Bureau for Firearms, Alcohol and something else that I forgot. A SWAT team executed a search warrant and busted into his house in the early morning hours around the times I told when he was asleep. They seized everything. He's looking at about 40 to 60 years for his offenses. On top of that, the police also apprehended the other druggie who delivered to him in the middle of the night. I don't know when afterwards, but at some point in time, Crime Stoppers helped me set up how I wanted my $1,000. The evidence was pretty damning, I got my revenge, but I also saved the community. And guys, I would definitely say that sometimes being a so-called snitch, even though I don't like the word, is definitely worth it, because in this case, the landlord was an absolute douchebag and he definitely deserved what was coming to him. Would you have done the same as the OP? Let us know what you would have done in the comments. And the next one is titled, Absolutely Mr. Neighbor. I have a neighbor who's a bit of a troublemaker, a bit of a backstory. He has 4 cars and often parks them all on the street, completely filling the street in front of his and my house. When he's not working on his car with air wrenches or washing them, he's probably idling his tow truck. Oh yeah, he has a tow truck too, just rumbling away outside of my house. And by the way guys, I'm kind of worried that this story is actually from my neighborhood, because my neighbor also has a crap ton of cars, even though they are not really normal cars, but instead used for his business. It certainly does not seem like I am living in a residential area, let me tell you that. People are constantly coming and going from his house, likely for illicit reasons, but no way to prove that. There was a period where the police were at his house multiple times a week about 2 years ago, but that has subsided to once every couple months. He lives with his grandmom, who is immobile, and you no longer see her anymore, except when the ambulance comes and takes her to the hospital alone. Last week, when I was walking out of my house to take my son to daycare, he came stomping across the street and started to be all buddy-buddy with me, so I immediately knew something was up. He asked if we can keep my dog, a German Shepherd, inside in the morning until 7 AM because he's tired of her waking him up. She is a shepherd, she barks, we limit it as best as we can, but a dog is going to be a dog. I say, sure, and continue buckling in my kit. He then continues on and says to not take pictures of him or his house. I point to the camera overhead, which is oriented in a way to see my front door, driveway, and his house. I put it up to keep an eye on him and my property, since he has a hot head and I don't trust him to not do something stupid. Then, to take the cake, he told me to stop following his wife and explained that she said I followed her home multiple times. I explained to him that I lived across the street from time to time, we will both be coming home at the same time, and that I have better things to do than park a mile away from home to follow her home. So for the malicious compliance, it comes back to keeping my dog inside until 7 AM so he can get his much needed beauty sleep. Now, instead of leaving her dog door unlocked at night and her going out in the morning when she wakes up, usually around when we wake up at 6:30, we lock it at night and unlock it on the nose at 7 AM. But at 7 AM when I let her out, I tell her to speak for about 5 minutes. More often than not, she would go out in the morning pee and come back in with no one any the wiser. Not anymore, now she goes out and barks up a storm for a few minutes. And I gotta say guys, even though this is some good malicious compliance, since the OP mentioned that the neighbor is potentially a hothead and kind of crazy, I would definitely be worried for my dog. So therefore, I'm not sure if I would do something similar. What are your thoughts on this story? Let me know in the comments. And guys, as a bonus, the last one is from r/ripe stories from our beloved diva Mama-san, and it is titled Sweet Old Church Lady Owns Fundraising Contest. As always, Ripe gets rights. At my church we have many entitled people, however, Miss Judy was not entitled even though her family has done many jobs for the church over many generations. One fund drive for charity, we had to collect the pull tabs of soda cans and the like. The person who collected the most would get 2 pizzas. Now, almost every teen in the youth group went nuts trying to get the most. Come the day of the turn-in, it just so happened that 5 of the teens tied. Then Miss Judy sat upright and said she had some tabs for the contest, but could someone come to her and carry it up to the table? It was too heavy for her to carry it anymore. Now, Miss Judy was a tiny, stooped-over, frail old lady, the sweetest person you could ever meet. Turns out she had a glass gallon jar like you would see filled with big fat pickles. It was filled to the brim with can taps, and she still had a big plastic bag full of more taps. Our priest asked where she got all those taps, and the entire church's jaws hit the floor when she said, I just grabbed my walking cane and walked down my street to the house owned by the biker gang and asked them if they could save the taps from their beers for our church. And she very sweetly asked the priest to give the 2 pizzas to the teen youth group so they could have fun. I could never have the sheer nerve to even think of what she did. You know guys, sometimes the most fearless people are either very young children or very old people. But obviously that also depends on the individual. Either way, unfortunately, we have reached the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed the content today, and if you did, please don't forget to also click the bell button to not miss any of my future uploads. This is especially important in case YouTube decides to screw with my channel again, so it would really mean a lot if you could subscribe and click the bell icon. In addition, please also don't forget to check out my Patreon at patreon.com/ripeyoutube for more exclusive Reddit content. Either way, I hope you have a fantastic day and I see you again tomorrow.